Therefore it says, wake up, sleeper. Get up from the dead. Christ will shine on you. So be careful to live your life wisely, not foolishly. Take advantage of every opportunity because these are evil times. Because of this, don't be ignorant, but understand the Lord's will. Saints of God, my eyes have seen the glory and the coming of the Lord. He's trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. I see him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. They have builded him an altar in the evening dew and damps. I can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamp. His day is marching on. Hello, welcome to Conversation with Faith Leaders. My name is Brandon A.A.J. Davis, founder of Content Writing Service and Conversation with Faith Leaders, and I am delighted to be with you once again to have another conversation with an amazing individual. In 2012, I had a chance to meet in person then Judge Francine Brookins. She was a member of the Judicial Council of the AME Church, and we was on the stage of the General Conference. And I got a chance to meet her, shake hands with her, talk to her. Thereafter, found her on Facebook, began to follow her campaign for the episcopacy, and following her content, found out that she was just a really cool, down-to-earth, honest individual. What you see is what you get with Bishop Brookins. And so I was impressed by her work. I was impressed by her ministry. She is a no-nonsense person when it comes to being a real advocate for Jesus Christ and being someone who is serving in the community. There's no frills and thrills where you get preachers who are always trying to put on a show, trying to look a certain way. You get the real deal with Bishop Brookins. And so I clung to her because I like her authenticity. And so recently, at the 51st quadrennial session of the General Conference of the AME Church, she was elected the 141st bishop of the AME Church, the fifth woman in a succession of bishops in the wonderful city of Orlando, Florida. And so I immediately reached out to her to get her on this broadcast so I can have a chance to talk with the newly elected bishop. And so I'm excited to have today her grace, Bishop Francine Angelique Nelson Brookins. Bishop Brookins, welcome to the show.
Hello, my brother and my friend. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I just love you. I love your tenacity, your passion for the Lord, your passion for the church. I'm just excited to be in your presence today. So thank you for the invitation.
Well, Bishop, you have graced me today. I see that you have on Episcopal purple and you look good in your purple. How was the adjustment coming? Are you going to be a bishop that wears a collar, or are we going to get the same Francine Brookins we've always seen?
As you can see, I'm trying to find my way. I understand that for the sake of tradition and also just authority and all of that, I do need to become a little more comfortable with the full round collar. I just can't do it every day. It still feels to me like, I walk my dog every day, and before I walk him, I put on I put on his collar. And there is a way in which, for me, it just it's something. I'm growing into it, and I like the ability to wear a uniform. I went to Catholic school for high school, and that was easy, and so all of that. But when my pull on comes, you'll see me in the collar a lot more. This contraption with the hair and the buttons is killing me.
And you know what, Bishop, we love the authenticity because, the blessing of being a woman is that there's no man that's really going to be bold enough to say, "Oh, you need to put your collar on." Nobody's that bold to cross that line to tell a woman what she needs to wear. So that's a blessing in itself. And then, as I shared with you in a Facebook message, they have these panzadas. I love the garb.
Right.
I wear my collar often. I preached this morning. Even though I was on the radio, I had a collar on. That's just I fly.
That's you, Brandon. That's
in a collar. That's me. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. Unless I'm really flying to go somewhere, something simple, something personal. When I'm in the airport, I have on a suit and a collar. That's just me. But they have some contraptions, Bishop, that'll help you to be comfortable.
Thank you.
No worries.
I'm finding all of them.
We got some contraptions.
Amen.
Yes, ma'am. We got some ways to help you to be comfortable. So, Bishop, I'm not going to belabor the moment long. I want to get right into our conversation. The first question I want to ask you: what are your thoughts on being a legacy bishop? What components of your father's episcopacy you hope to replicate in terms of social justice, community involvement, and being a charismatic leader?
My father's DNA runs through my body, and many people say they can hear him and see him in me from time to time. But my ministry was primarily formed under the pastoral leadership of my mom, Reverend Carol Nelson Ingram, who was ordained in the California conference of the AME Church in the early 70s. She was one of the first itinerant elders to complete seminary in that conference. And as a pastor in San Francisco in the early 80s, she was heavily engaged in what would now be called AIDS ministry, before they knew what AIDS was, and it was just starting to impact and kill members of the community. People with AIDS were starting to be shunned from the institution. And so she was one of the first people to open the doors of the local church building to the community, who was feeling very hated by the Church of Jesus Christ. So, in my formative years, those were the kinds of things that I saw happening. Both she and my father introduced me to a Jesus who met people where they were and sought to make their lives and the communities in which we live healthier and happier. So I've always understood Jesus to be a community activist, a revolutionary, a politician, a person who was with people in the struggle. They both longed for and worked for a church whose Jesus was big enough to save all of us in spirit and in truth. The reality is that because maybe of each of their struggles with the confines of the institution, anybody who knows my dad knows that he was wild in his own ways. I ran from the church, and I was determined to serve the God they loved, but not in the church they loved, and certainly not as a clergy person. I thought I would best carry out the legacy of my parents as a criminal defense attorney and civil rights attorney. But when God called me to preach the good news of Jesus Christ, I could not continue to run. So it's interesting for me to even consider myself as a legacy bishop because of the eclectic nature of my family. And I think maybe I just am who I am. They were who they were, and I am who I am. And that is a person who's always going to be committed to justice, always going to be involved in the community. And hopefully the charisma I bring is that of compassion and love, and the lives that I touch will speak to the legacy.
You know what? And that's one of the things that we look forward to because, as I said, when I got a chance to meet you, I met this cool lady who rode motorcycles, who had dreads,
Yes, sir.
who, I don't know. Can I say that the bishop kind of talked a little junk to me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we
Yeah,
we did that. We did that. We had
yeah,
to
we
go
did.
through
That's
some
right.
things. Yeah, we
That's
did. Yeah,
right.
we
We had to
did.
work a few things out. And the bishop was like, "Hey, I will beat you up, dude. Like you don't even know. You in danger right now." So I'm so glad I got common sense to get on the good side of the bishop before she
Amen.
became bishop. Ain't God
Amen.
good? Amen.
Amen.
But that's one of the things that I believe that drew people to you was your authenticity and the fact that as a PK on both sides, mom and dad preachers, you're both AMEs, your generational AME. You had your own opinion of the church, and you was unashamedly honest about your opinion of the church. And I think some of that came out in your campaign for the episcopacy. That there's some stuff about who we are that we need to talk about. And so your election gave hope to many people because it spoke to the forward progression of the church. Um, it's sad that we're still counting the number of women that we have elected to the episcopacy. But thank God that we have women elected to the episcopacy of the church.
Amen.
I got into a little tiff with the AME Zion colleague. I said on Facebook, I think y'all need to elect a woman. And how dare you tell us what we need to do? We didn't tell y'all who y'all needed to elect. But I think the times have changed. I've noticed, even with my Baptist colleagues, that their ideas of women preacher have changed. One who was not so much as a staunch person against women in the pulpit, just kind of went along with the tradition, now invites women to preach in his pulpit, now supports women leadership. Dr. Gina Stewart just became the first woman president of the Lot
Yes.
Terry foreign missions of the Baptist Church. God is
Yes.
up to something. And for
Yes.
anybody who's still questioning whether or not a woman can do this, come meet Francine Brookins. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bishop, let me ask you this question. What do you want your legacy to be now that you've been elected? And considering you will be the first woman senior bishop and the longest serving bishop in recent history, it's going to be Daniel Alexander Payne, Francine Brookins. That's what the history is going to say. So how do you feel about that?
First of all, I just think it's presumptuous to assume that we'll be here, given everything that the world is going through right now. Seriously, we do have to take it day by day because with climate change and the diseases that are coming along with that, and some of the real threats to human life, the idea of retiring in 2048 is it tickles me because again, we just don't know. We just don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. But assuming that I have the opportunity to actually serve and be here doing the best that I can for Jesus until 2048, I do hope that the people who thought that God would never use them in the center of the life of the AME Church will see themselves in me and take a deep breath, and in some cases come back to the AME Church with their gifts and their light and find a home again here. I have people who I love dearly, who I know God called to ministry within the AME Church, who were wounded or just who could not find their place. And so I hope to be able to, in whatever ways, make room and space for some who I know are supposed to be here. God calls so many amazing people to work together in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And I think we only get a little taste of the kinds of gifts and light that are among us. as I said in my acceptance, I guess it's called an acceptance speech, whatever that is, as soon as you're done with the election, I certainly
Right.
plan to lend my efforts to helping the church leadership to look a little bit more like the church fellowship. And that to me is not just about gender or sexuality, because we know the sexuality issue came up at the general conference and is certainly pressing in on all of our mainline denominations. But just in terms also of class, of culture, of background and experience. Sometimes I look up at the leadership and it just looks monolithic. Everybody looks like they shopped in the same store. They all spent the summer at Martha's Vineyard. That you know what I mean. And
Yes,
so, but that's really not who we see in our pews or in our Zoom sanctuaries or in the world. And I think it is helpful to be able to look up and see yourself, whether it's lay leadership or missionary leadership or RAAC leadership, to see some diversity. Black people are diverse, right? I mean,
that's
we
right.
are,
That's right.
we come from all kind of places and we eat all kind of food and we do all kind of things. And I think our leadership should look like that. And so, I have always engaged the politics of the AME Church to try to create spaces for people who might not otherwise be allowed to enter the space. So I plan to continue to do that. As I traveled the connection during the campaign, people would always tell me how my dad impacted their lives in very personal ways. So he built churches and I've built a building and, all of that. But I think legacy is best secured in the hearts and minds of those we serve. So I hope that people will tell stories of, what happened when they met Bishop Brookins or when they worked with Bishop Brookins on this or that. And I'm kind of crazy. I like to twirl and I really enjoy having fun. I like dogs. So I just hope that on a human level, people will be able to carry on the story and the spirit of Bishop Francine Brookins. And then lastly, I'm a builder. So where there is a need, I'd like to make room for some essential ministries. For example, in the 18th, we have a business center, we have a youth empowerment center, and we have an orphanage. But I'm clear that we also probably need to have a domestic violence shelter, and we need to begin to create spaces for mental health care, which are largely not available in Lesotho, Eswatini, Botswana, or Mozambique. So in terms of just specifically the work that is right before me, I'm eyeing some kind of domestic violence, something, and some kind of mental health to leave in the place once we're gone from there.
Now, Bishop, you segued greatly, and so I want to ask this follow-up question. You segued into it very greatly. The legacy is something that's best determined by the people, but how do you plan the legacy? Because we will get to see of you what you allow us to see. We will get to see your work as AMEs because there's reports, there's conferences, there's meetings. But how do you plan to guard your legacy from what other people would have you to make your legacy to be?
Tell me more about that question. When I read it, I wanted to hear more of your thoughts on that. What do you mean?
So we understand Daniel Alexander Payne to be, in all honesty, an aristocrat. An elitist. He was an uppity man. He drank sherry from a wood oak cask, sitting by a fire reading a book. He had a cottage in Wilberforce, Ohio, in the area where where only prominent people lived. We shaped his legacy because based on what we gleaned from him, but then other people also taking what they learned from him, put him in the light of, the AME church is what it is because of Daniel Alexander Payne. We harp on education because of Daniel Alexander Payne. We sing these white people hymns because of Daniel Alexander Payne, but that's not true. we sing these hymns because those hymns are reflective of our Methodist roots, and because we sing those hymns because we understand um, people, oh, that was Brookins. When we talk about your services, we'll say, ministry lived open and outward because that's what she was. I hope that makes sense.
It does. It makes sense. My internet connection is for some reason doing crazy things, so I only heard a portion of what you said.
It could be mine. It could be mine. I'm in the country of North Carolina, so it could be mine.
Yeah, I don't know what
try
it
to
is.
fix something real quick, but can you answer the question while I try to fix it?
Sure. Yeah. Again, I don't. It's hard for me to think about it in those terms, in terms of what is it when it's all said and done, and without sounding terribly cliche. I think that it's just kind of. I hope to be known by the love that I have had for the people, that I have been able to see in people, things that perhaps they could not easily see in themselves, and help the church to see in them, perhaps things that we may have overlooked. I'm a builder, so I hope to be someone who leaves a legacy of community building, of building relationships to work for justice. So right now, for example, we're working on trying to make sure that we can get increased internet access and increased access to vaccines in the 18th district. That's just based on the need that we have found there. Now, we also know that we have need of some education, that we have clergy who desperately want to be able to attend seminary classes. And so I know this isn't exactly directly answering the question, but it is that I hope that the legacy will just be that I met people where they were, and that I left their lives and communities in some way improved. I think maybe it's going to be good to have this conversation again in about 10 years and see what has happened over that time. But I don't come to it now with any particular anything other than I just want to please God. I just want to do my work and try to be a good bishop, a bishop who people can trust and talk to, and who will work to grow the church in spirit and in truth. I'm not too concerned about numbers. Jesus had 12 disciples, and here we are still carrying on that legacy. And so growth for me is about substance, in addition to numbers.
Bishop, I think you answered it perfectly. We will be able to take from you exactly what you gave to us, and I think that speaks to the personality of who you are. Already you've given us an outline of what you hope to do as a bishop in the church, which is meeting the needs of the people, whatever the needs may be. And so, Bishop, this is really exciting. And if I haven't said it on the air, Bishop, congratulations on your episcopacy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm excited about what God has in store.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to take a quick break. I have sponsors, y'all. I have people who sponsor my show. So, let me just take a minute to highlight my sponsors, and then we're going to come back with this conversation with the 141st Bishop of the AME Church, Bishop Francine Brookins.
Praise him, with a violin.
Welcome. I'm Alphonse Allen, the senior pastor of Allen Temple AME Church.
And I'm personal injury attorney Blake Maislin, partnering together to bring you the Allen Temple broadcast.
Every Sunday morning at 11:30 on Star 64. We're reaching the city one soul at a time.
And now we're inviting you to join us.
Every Sunday morning at 11:30 on Star 64.
And so we're back with Bishop Francine Brookins, the presiding bishop of the 18th Episcopal District, and we are having a wonderful conversation. Bishop, I want to ask you this question. You recently named your Episcopal supervisor, Dr. Miriam Burnett. What was the leading qualifications that led you in choosing your Episcopal supervisor? And talk about, if you can, the uniqueness of your position. We know that bishops choose their Episcopal supervisors. Well, Bishop Brookins is a single woman. She's not married. And so she got a chance to pick whomever she wanted to pick to do ministry with her in the 18th Episcopal District. So, Bishop, talk about that, please.
Yes, indeed. So as a single person, and I don't know how many people we've elected in the course of AME history who came to the bench as unmarried persons. But I knew that God has not sent me my next husband yet, and I wasn't going to try to just go find one in order to be elected. And so I asked, God, what am I supposed to do here? Because I'm clear that you're calling me to this, but I really don't know. And in some ways, I must say that because Episcopal families seem to bring so much gifting to the work, I felt a little inadequate. Like, boy, people are getting shortchanged. I mean, these folks have spouses who have, they're ordained, they have all these gifts, they have all these kids who do all this tech stuff and who are called themselves. And it's just me and my dog, and my mom who's 80 years old and not interested in doing any kind of active ministry, although I think she's still pretty active in her own ministry ways. But I asked God. And so that is how I got to the Reverend Dr. Miriam Burnett. I was led by the Holy Spirit, and we worked together as mentors for the Health and Justice D-Min cohort at ITC. And during that time, it became clear to me that if she was willing to serve, our collective efforts could be a major blessing to the church. We share a common vision of salvation that impacts the life of the person and the community, and not just the eternal soul. Each of us has very different personalities and approaches, but they are quite complementary. I think it would be funny to hear from some of our now doctor students as they talk about experiences of working with both of us, because again, we are radically different in personality. But I think that can be a blessing for those we serve. And then she is the queen of missionary resources. She's been the medical director of the AME Church for over 20 years, and she has long-standing relationships in the United States and around the world for getting access to pretty much anything we need. For example, like I told you, in the 18th, we're trying to get increased access to internet and to vaccines. And so I just said, Dr. Burnett, we need more internet and we need access to vaccines. And the next week she had us on the phone with FEMA and the White House and working with the satellite folks. And so, if I can see it, she can put her hand on it. And that's why. And the Holy Spirit, I think, kind of spoke to both of us at the same time. Each of us is just tickled. We think it's pretty funny that God would use us in this capacity, but we both are absolutely passionate and dedicated to the work and to advancing the family of God in the way that we see it. And so I'm just excited that she said yes. And that's how we got here. The Holy Ghost put us together.
That's amazing. And you know what, Bishop, thank you for reminding us that we still need to pray about decisions that we make. I mean, it is so important that we still seek God. I mean, it's amazing how we come to a place in our life where we get comfortable with our relationship with God, that we just automatically assume that we know what we're doing. Thank you. Thank you for reminding the people you still need to talk to God about this stuff. This is really good.
Absolutely.
And so Bishop Dr. Marion Burnett, you two would do ministry in the 18th district. What are some of the things that you plan to tackle first when you get there?
Well, we're kind of already there in the there sense, because we can't get there physically right now, which is really driving me crazy. But what we're doing now is just assessing. So meeting with as many people as possible to try to assess the current situations, which are evolving in Eswatini and Mozambique. There is a great deal of civil unrest, which really kicked off while we were at the general conference. So this is new for them, and new for us. They're not accustomed to having to be in war in what is not declared as war, but is dangerous. There's looting and there is violence happening that the people are not accustomed to in Eswatini and in Mozambique. And then, of course, Eswatini just hit the top of the CDC list as a level 4 area for coronavirus. Botswana is getting hit, and Lesotho as well. So we're dealing with the same things that many people in the South in the United States are dealing with, violence and disease. But in addition to that, I'm trying to help the folks feel encouraged and loved, because all of us, even, when I was just pastoring in Fontana, this same seat that I'm sitting in right now is where I was for the last year and a half with my folks because of COVID. And so just trying to make sure that people know that they are not left alone, that they are in community, that there are people working together and collaboratively to try to help meet the needs that they have, to keep pastors encouraged. Most of our pastors are not paid. Most of our presiding elders are not paid. And so imagine getting up every Sunday morning to go into the mountains, risking COVID, risking violence, to get to somewhere to just tell somebody about the goodness of God and how God has their eye on them and God has not forgotten them, and then making your trek through the mountains back home. That's just heavy load lifting. And so I hope, as an Episcopal leader, to be able to help share the load and to help bring some encouragement. Like I said, I've been doing some research about mental health in the district, and I've been somewhat surprised to find out that it's just not even really a subject. And I cannot imagine carrying the mental load that some of the clergy and lay leaders in the district are carrying. So trying to lighten the load, trying to improve on, build on the work that Bishop Wicker and Reverend Wicker left in the district. Like I said, we have an orphanage, the Vashti Murphy Mackenzie Selyasandla Orphanage. We have the M. Joan Cousin Youth Empowerment Center, the FC James Business Center, and then a new development that was started by Bishop White. So I hope to, make necessary building improvements. And we have some turnover that's happening at the orphanage. The mother who's been there with the kids from the beginning is needing to retire. And so just, in my heart, I'm like, oh my goodness. And my 2 senior presiding elders in Lesotho are ready to retire, and I can't even get there for annual conference. So how do I learn what the need is, who the people are, just that kind of stuff that I would normally pick up on by putting my hands on the ground and looking people in the eye and feeling their spirit. I can't do. So it's just information gathering and whatever I can pick up in the spirit through Zoom and through prayer.
Bishop, it is really refreshing to see that your transition from a pastor to prelate is seamless. I would not take for granted that everybody does this, but every appointment I've received, I spoke to the leadership of the church first, so we can kind of get some type of introduction done. And then the next thing I did was I went to Google to find out,
Yes.
how many black folk is in the city.
Yes.
Because I passed it in the 3rd district. So there are some places where, it was 0.3% black folk in the city
That's
of
it.
Wheeling, West Virginia. So I
Yes.
wanted to find out how many us's was there. I wanted to find out, is this a Republican city? Is it a Democrat city? Who's the mayor? What the police is like? Have there been some incidents, with the cops and black folks running into each other? To hear that you've done your research about the geographical area as well as some of the concerns is really refreshing. And again, it speaks of hope. This is what people really want to hear from our Episcopal leaders. We want to see that caring, sensitive side of our Episcopal prelates so that we can understand why you respond to the things you respond to, why you pick and choose, your areas of concern and ministry. So it's really refreshing. Bishop, when do you expect to get to your district? And what are the tangible ways that we can support you?
So apparently I have to have an invitation from each of the 4 countries. I can't just get on a plane and go. So first I need an invitation. They cannot extend those invitations right now, like I said, because of COVID and civil unrest and terrorism. So what we're doing now is trying to get as much work done as we can here, but we are planning September 2022. A major mission trip. The series of annual conferences will begin, if we can get back on track, in September. The Botswana annual conference is actually supposed to be happening starting this September. We're postponing it because of adjustments that were made in the last quadrennium and trying to get all the annual conferences back on schedule. But again, people are largely not vaccinated, so they should not be gathering, and internet access in homes is quite a luxury in some places. So we're going to try to just assess need and bring supply this year. And then through the Health Commission and through some of our dedicated and excited medical staff, we are working with the Women's Missionary Society, which is 1,800 women strong in the 18th district, to bring medical mission of all kinds. So reproductive health and all kinds of stuff that is much needed. And so we'll be looking and asking people who everybody has said, when are you going? I want to travel with you. So we're going to be pushing a September 2022 big trip over. And at that time, I'll be able to set foot on the grounds and see if it's possible for me to move to Maseru, where the residence is in Lesotho. So I would love to live there. I don't know if they take dogs. So I'm a little wondering about that. Everybody keeps telling me my dog might get eaten or something, but I don't think they know what they're talking about. So but I would love to live there just because I'm not an aristocrat, and it to be able to put my feet on the ground helps me understand better where I am, to be able to eat the food, to be able to smell the smells. Yesterday we had a wonderful welcome ceremony and they started singing, but I wanted to dance and I wanted to be in the space, and they're telling me that they need to teach me how to dance because this liturgical dance stuff that I got going is not what they got going. And so September. And so we have bills, the normal help that any of us, all of my classmates need. All of us need to bring resource to the districts where we're serving. So right now we're getting our U.S. not-for-profit set up. We certainly have ability to receive donations. We have an Episcopal residence that was built when Bishop White was there. There's only 60,000 US dollars left on that residence. I want to pay that residence off. It's a burden. It's a heavy bill on the district and on the Episcopal leader. And $60,000 for us can be done through a variety of ways that won't be as taxing on the folks. So I'd like to get that done. That's one tangible way to help me pay off that house. And then, of course, the M. Joan Cousin Youth Empowerment Center has need of some critical repairs. And I was watching your commercial from your paid sponsors and thinking, yes, I think the 18th district will become a paid sponsor of yours, and we'll run a commercial.
On with it.
Yeah, and we'll run a commercial for the orphanage and for the empowerment center and for the business center, and try to get people to know the people in the 18th and the work that's being done, and all the ways that we can work together to just increase the family of God there too.
Come on with it, Bishop. I'll be glad to set it up for you. That's
Wonderful.
what content writing service does. We create videos. We do professional writing. That's I had to find a way to be relevant in my wilderness.
You are doing it, brother. You are making your own table, and I love you for that. Just so you know, we see you.
Thank you.
We see you.
Thank you, Bishop. I really appreciate it. So y'all come on. We'll be glad to do it. Now, I do know that the 18th district has a Facebook page.
Yes.
Are y'all still using the same Facebook page?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
so
yes,
I can put this video on your Facebook page.
Yes.
I was going to mention your predecessor, Bishop Wicker, was a dancer. So you will be in good company dancing with the people of the 18th district. So I look forward to getting these videos.
Yeah,
I'm waiting on it. I'm waiting on it. I want to see the videos of Bishop Francine Brookins teaching the people of the 18th district not only some liturgical moves, but how to do the electric slide. I want to see it.
Well, right now they're going to try to teach me, because they're looking at me with my liturgical stuff saying, girl, what is you doing? We got to teach you how to move with the music. So I'm excited. I'm ready to go get my dancing lesson.
This is fun. This is fun. Bishop, do you have a Cash App that we can put up here for persons who want to show support?
Yes, Bishop Brookins 141.
Show your support. All right. I'm gonna put this up here. We're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna ask you my final question, and we're gonna go. Bishop, again, this has been fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Recently, God opened the door for J.P. Moore Mortuary and Cremation Services to expand into the Madison, Florida area, allowing us to provide stellar yet affordable services to families in need, families who are looking to honor the life of their loved one in the customs and traditions of our cultural experience. J.P. Moore Mortuary and Cremation Services offers compassionate and courteous service with unmatched satisfaction and a professional staff that can serve your family in a difficult time with dignity. The top 11 reasons why families call J.P. Moore Mortuary and Cremation Services are that we offer funeral services, cremation services. We have an on-premise chapel. We have J.P. Silk Creations, our on-premise florist. We offer grief counseling. We have 24-hour on-call service, at-home arrangements, out-of-town services. We have digital casket display. We offer air flight shipping. And we have reasonable and competitive pricing with a complimentary notary public. Spreading sunshine at the sunset of life. J.P. Moore Mortuary and Cremation Services. The mortician who cares more.
Hey folks, we're back. We're back with Bishop Francine Brookins. So if you want to show your support, please do so. You can send your monies to Cash App. That's $ Bishop FAB 141. Bishop FAB 141. Send your monies. She's already told us we need your resources. We need your help. We're looking forward to you supporting her and the work of the 18th district. This is going to be great, and I think this is where the joy of the church increases when people get a chance in a pandemic to show their support for the work, and we get to see the work being done from afar. So again, Bishop, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with me today. It has been a blessing to have you on the broadcast. I hope and pray I can get some of your other colleagues to join me as well, so that we can learn more. I think the further we go in the life of the church, especially in this technological age, I think we get to see more and glean more from our leaders, and it's amazing what that does for the people. I know it gives me joy to get to talk to you in this way. And as a kid, I couldn't have imagined having a conversation with an AME bishop. Not as a
Me
kid.
either.
And that's funny that we have the same thought pattern. But I mean, I just, as a kid going to annual conference, my first experience of an Episcopal prelate was Bishop Vincent Randolph Anderson, who everybody who knows me knows that's my dude. I love him. A day doesn't go by I don't think about Bishop Anderson. A month doesn't pass that I don't talk to Mrs. Anderson. Hey, there's your former colleague, Judge Leon
Hi,
Kelly.
Judge Kelly.
Judge.
Hey, Judge Kelly. How you doing, Judge Kelly?
Good to see you, Judge Kelly.
Yeah,
Look at Facebook.
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine.
My mother
Go
and
ahead.
Bishop Anderson have a very special relationship as well. And you probably know this, but her and Supervisor Anderson retired, stay on the phone, and stay up. Bishop Anderson was my mom's, heart bishop as well. So understood.
And that connection is amazing because I call her mommy. We can talk, and I mean we talk about everything.
Right.
And I've been pushing her to do some writing, and she keeps saying, "Oh, Brendan, I don't think anybody wants to hear from a retired Episcopal supervisor." I said, "Supervisor, I promise you, if you write and it gets put in the Christian Recorder, people are going to read it. Folks going to call you about it." And
Absolutely.
so I said, hey, do it because, this is the season to do it. Bishop, before I ask you this last question, one of the things that I have said for a long time, Bishop Anderson wrote a book called Proclamations from a Bench. It was a collection of sermons from the then bishops of the church. I've often said the bishops of old, they wrote because of the age and the time. That's what people did. They wrote. I thought the pandemic was going to push us to do more writing. It certainly pushed me to do more writing. I wrote a book in the pandemic, but will we get to see that side of you where we will see your writings in our periodicals and other places?
Yes, you will. For 8 years during the campaign, I sent out that Monday morning meditation, which was as we went through the text, we worked with one word. So I think the first word was walk. And just everywhere the word in the New Revised Standard Version was translated as walk would be a surprise to me each time I would find it. And those meditations were just sporadic. People have asked me about what happened to the meditations. They just stopped now that you're a bishop. And I want to reframe them. What I'm hoping to do is highlight the work of the people in the 18th district through those meditations. So I'm not sure yet how to do it. I'm still seeking the vision on how to do that on a weekly basis. But then in addition to that, I certainly do plan to write. All of my predecessors have encouraged me to journal and to be able to at least record the professional part of the journey, how it unfolded, the things that I've learned. I plan to write and to be helpful to others. There are too many places I feel like we make it hard for people to grow into their best selves by withholding information or treating some things like a hazing process that sometimes hinders the work of the church. So in that, writing the story can help others to follow their own path. I do plan to do that. Opinion papers and things like that, I'm trying to be careful with right now because I am the bishop of 2 kingdoms and 2 republics, and I don't understand the politics at all. So I'm trying not to do more harm by speaking out on something that I may not be quite fully informed about yet. And so with that, I'm just taking it all in and not producing anything just yet in terms of writing.
Well, Bishop, I look forward to it. I know for a fact that your legal side is going to be used greatly in the Episcopal ministry that you have. And I think it will be a blessing to churches and pastors that, you know, that will save us from some legal trouble in the future. Having a legal scholar and a practitioner of the law in the chair, oh man, what a blessing that will be. And I feel for those persons who will try to lie to the bishop. I'm sorry for laughing. It's just, we know
No,
these
it's
things
funny.
happen.
It is funny because, you know, I'm here and I'm just so friendly and everything. And just till you found out something else. Praise Jesus. I am friendly. Yeah.
Indeed. But let me tell you, people, just watch how you talk to the bishop. Just, you know, and don't just think it's just Facebook. This is not just Facebook. This African Methodist Episcopal Church relationship is real. We go to meetings not just for the meeting itself. It's a family reunion. It's a family affair.
Yes.
You see people in the hallways and in the hotel lobby, and you know, it's like, hey, there go Bishop Brookins. You know,
Right.
hey, you know, it's a family affair. And when people act like family and treat you like family, we talk to you about the stuff that you talk about on Facebook. I can't even begin to tell you the phone calls I've gotten, not because I said something wrong, but because a bishop was just interested in, hey, talk to me about your perspective on, you know, X, Y, and Z. Let me hear some more about that. So that's a blessing. Bishop, I ask all of my guests this question. How do you define the term unholy silence?
Mm-hmm. So I'm a Matthew 25 Christian. And I think that unholy silence is crystallized probably by what happened on what we call Good Friday, when we chose to ask for the release of Barabbas instead of Jesus. I think it would have been a good time for the Jesus people to speak up when the folks were shouting, "Crucify him." I think it might have been a good time for others to say, no, do not crucify him. I think that in any situation in which we find ourselves, we have to ask, who are the least of these? And then we need to become one with them as friends and as advocates. So it is unholy for the church to be as silent as we are on issues of poverty that are killing us around the world, that unnecessary poverty. It is unholy for us to disown our sons and daughters who have been victimized by the mass incarceration system. We ought to be saying something, not just with our mouths, but with our missions and our ministries. It is unholy for us to be in places where the unhoused population is lined up outside of our edifices and we have no interaction with them. It is unholy for the church to be engaged in self-aggrandizing orgies of opulence and greed and consumed only with ourselves. We are called for such a time as this to be in with we are the community. Jesus was not separated. And so unholy silence is anytime we feel like we can other ourselves from the suffering and don't have an obligation to speak out and to speak up.
Wow. Bishop, this has been an amazing conversation. I want to thank you once again for taking time out to be with me today. I really appreciate you. It is my prayer that as you do the work of the 18th Episcopal District, that God will bless the work of your hands in a magnanimous way. Again, Bishop, thank you so very much. I really appreciate your presence today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. And to sit at your table.
Well, Bishop, you're welcome anytime. You are welcome
Thank you.
anytime.
Thank
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, this has been a blessing. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have had Bishop Brookins on the broadcast today. And we pray that you will take advantage of the information that was posted. Please send her your support. Send whatever monies that you have to support the work of the 18th Episcopal District. You will be grateful in heart, mind, and soul that you contributed something to the work of the 18th Episcopal District. This is what God is calling us to do. This is a time where we cannot continue in the same path of selfishness. I have said before, and I've said it on this broadcast, I believe personally and individually that part of the reason why we have experienced COVID-19 was so that we can regain a sense of your neighbor. If for no other reason, you have to be concerned about your neighbor because your neighbor can infect you with COVID, or you can infect your neighbor with COVID. The reality is we have an obligation to be concerned about our neighbor. I grew up, I'm a kid of the 80s, grew up in the 90s. I remember PBS television show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? And so I invite you to be a neighbor of the 18th Episcopal District by supporting Bishop Brookins and supporting the 18th District. Send your monies to the Cash App and watch God not only bless their hands, but bless yours for being a blessing. And so with that, I want to leave with you a thought as always. This is from St. John Chrysostom, who was an early church father and the Bishop of Constantinople. He says these words here. Whether we obtain that which we seek for, or whether we attain it not, let us ever persevere in prayer. And let us give thanks, not only if we obtain, but if we fail to obtain. For when God denies us anything, it is no less a favor than if he had granted it. For we know not as he does what is most expedient for us. This has been Conversation with Faith Leaders. My name is Brandon A.J. Davis, founder of Content Writing Service and Conversation with Faith Leaders. And I invite you to tune in as we continue these amazing conversations. Today, we celebrate 1 year, yay, that we've been doing this broadcast. And I look forward to bringing more relevant conversations and not just another opinion. So please keep your dial right here on Facebook and YouTube. And I'll see you next Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. God bless you. God keep you. Stay safe.